There we go. Good morning again to those of you joining us online. You have found us at Surprise Christian Church. My name is TJ Kummerfeld, and I'm so grateful to have you joining us as we continue to embark on a spiritual journey, whether we realize it or not, to grow, to water the plant, the tree, the well that is our faith. Something we have to continually be pouring into, continually be working on as we continue to grow closer and closer to God. We're either growing or we're dying. So it's important to make sure that we fill ourselves, and church is a great way to do that. We're going to be in 3 John today. If you flip over to Revelation, then back a little bit, you'll find the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd John. We're in 3 John. It's one chapter. Just a few verses. It's a short letter that John writes to his friend Gaius to encourage him in the leadership that he is doing for Gaius' encouraging of other teachers, but also a warning against preachers, teachers, churches who don't take the hospitality, the love, the care of God seriously. And I think it's important, it's encouraging, but also important for us as a church to read and understand the significance of the hospitality we portray. So I invite you to stand in the honor of the reading of God's Word today. We'll be in 3 John, verses 9 through 15. I wrote to the church, but Diotrephes, who loves to be first, will not welcome us. So when I come, I will call attention to what he is doing, spreading malicious nonsense about us. Not satisfied with that, he even refuses to welcome other believers. He also stops those who want to do so and puts them out of the church. Dear friend, do not imitate what is evil, but what is good. Anyone who does what is good is from God, and anyone who does what is evil has not seen God. Demetrius is well spoken of by everyone, and even by the truth itself. We also speak well of him, and you know that our testimony is true. I have much to write you, but I do not want to do so with pen and ink. I hope to see you soon, and we'll talk to you face to face. Peace to you. The friends here send their greetings. Greet the friends there by name. May God add to the blessing of our understanding of his word today. You may be seated. Hospitable churches. It's a subject that gets brought up a lot, especially when a church is trying to grow. One of the first questions is, how hospitable are you? Are you welcoming? Do you greet people? Do you have greeters at every door to welcome people, to make them feel welcomed? When you have new people come, do they know where to sit? Do you have someone to help them sit so they don't steal someone's pew and they get in trouble? There are churches that have a team specifically for that. I'm not joking. I think we are very blessed here at Surprise that if you pay attention, folks seem to be moving around a lot, especially as we've been getting on this year. It seems people don't seem to sit in the same spot 2 weeks in a row, unless you're one of the ones up here. Carol's always in the 3rd row. We got Roger and Becky and Dennis and Karen in the 3rd row. So, the 2nd row's open too. I could use a partner here in the 1st row, or Isaiah over here. I think we're very blessed to have a hospitable church, but it's a warning to those that aren't. Because we are called to proclaim the good news of God. And in order to have a foundation, a house, a center for us to go out into the kingdom, to go out into the world, we have to first share it with those around us. If we can't share the love of Christ with our brothers and sisters around us, how are we going to share it with people out in the world who don't want to know us? This letter is written as an encouragement. And we're going to end up going through the entire letter because there's so much here. It's just 15 verses, but it's such a great encouragement as well as such a great warning, especially for us today. I really believe that. In verse 1, we start with the elder. And John says, "To my dear friend Gaius, whom I love in the truth." The Apostle John is the one who wrote this letter. He's referring to himself as the elder, one of the elders of this church, or an elder of the faith, to be listened to and respected. He has the authority to say this. But he's writing to his friend Gaius. This letter probably went along with 1 John, specifically for Gaius to read himself as an encouragement. But it's an encouragement to us as well. "Dear friend," in verse 2, "I pray that you may enjoy good health and that all may go well with you, even as your soul is getting along well." And I want to stop just right there first. Even as your soul is getting along well. Here in America especially, we focus so much on the physical aspect of things. And something that was brought up to me very recently is the American dream. Now, when I was in school, the American dream is a 2-story white siding house, white picket fence around it, a mother and a father, 2 kids, and a golden retriever dog. Now, I've got an Oreo, but close enough, right? What was the American dream while you were growing up? Was it the same? Was it different? What's the American dream today? And we see it change. We see dreams change, outcomes change, but this is a focus on the physical. And as the physical regresses, because I think the American dream today would revolve around money. Being able to pay the bills, not have to worry about renting an apartment, mortgage on a house, whatever that house looks like, having food on the table, bills paid, not having to live paycheck to paycheck. I think that's where the American dream is shifting to, and that could just simply be my stage of life. But we talk about dreams, we talk about the physical. And I think it's important to note, I pray that you enjoy good health and that all may go well with you, but it's tied in, even as your soul is getting along well. It's tied in. May you be physically blessed as your soul grows. And it's something we don't focus on, our spiritual health, our spiritual maturity, our spiritual growth, the growth of our soul in accordance to God. We like to think of a physical checklist of things to do. Did I go to church today? Check. Well, only if I got my 8 hours of sleep. If I got 7 hours and 57 minutes, then I don't need to go to church because I didn't have 8 hours of sleep. I've met someone who was that way. We focus on this checklist. Did I come to church in a button-up shirt? Did I look the role? Did I fill the part? Did I say amen 3 times during the sermon? And we focus on these outward things. But where's the true growth of the soul? Just from the very beginning, John writes and says, I pray that your health does well, but I pray that your soul grows. That your soul grows closer to God. And he continues with encouragement in verse 3. It gives me great joy when some believers came and testified about your faithfulness to the truth, telling how you continue to walk in the truth. I have no greater joy than to hear that my children are walking in the truth. To hear that the church is doing well, to hear a good name about Surprise Christian Church. We have this concert getting ready to happen September 13th at 5 o'clock. And it brings me joy to hear the excitement that everyone has or that other people have. I'm so excited for this concert. It's going to be so much fun. It's going to be bigger and better than last year. And that just fills me with joy to see everyone else get excited, to have a choir like we had last week, and to see the excitement, to see the growth, to see us talked about outside of church. To see us talked about out in the regular world. I have no greater joy than to hear that my children, my brothers and sisters, are walking in the truth, sharing the gospel. I found it funny, and this is for the rest of you folks in the choir and quartet now. It's for all of you as well. I want you to join the choir. It's awesome. I was scrolling through YouTube. I try to upload our sermons onto YouTube now as well. And my sermons, which I'm biased towards, get 1 or 2 views a week. That's it, just 1 or 2 views. On Facebook, it gets 400 to 500. Facebook is our main social media platform. But the first time when we had the quartet, 525 views when I looked 2 days ago. His Eyes on the Sparrow, the choir that we had just last week, is already at 109 on YouTube, where we have 18 subscribers on the page. It fills my heart with joy because the sermons don't need to be the center of attention. Yes, I'm biased. But the songs get our name out there. People enjoy it. On Facebook, we get over 1,000 views on those songs and 400 on the sermon. It's awesome. I love that I'm not the center of attention. I'm a little jealous. But to hear the good news proclaimed, to see the church talked about in a good manner, in a loving manner, it fills me with joy to see the growth of a church. And it doesn't have to be just ours. There's a church that I've been keeping base with. They are trying so desperately to find a church to buy. They've been renting this church from another church, so their Sunday services happen at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. And they're close to being able to get their own church, and I'm excited to see other churches grow. And that's a heart check, a soul check. We can't just be focused on our church and what we're doing here so much that it gets us jealous of what God is doing around us, what God is doing in the churches around us, because we are all supposed to be united, not just hospitable to the believers around us, the believers in our own church, but churches are supposed to be hospitable and interact with other churches. When was the last time, even here at Surprise, we interacted with another church? Now, for the concert, we'll have folks from other churches come around, and it's a great time. But a community-led event where both spearhead it together. We aren't hospitable to other churches. I wonder what John would have to say about that if he wrote a letter today. If we continue on in verse 5, "Dear friend, you are faithful in what you are doing for the brothers and sisters. Even though they are strangers to you, they have told the church about your love. Please send them on their way in a manner that honors God. It was for the sake of the name that they went out receiving no help from the pagans, so we ought to therefore to show hospitality to such people so that we may work together for the truth." Even as a church, we are not given the sole responsibility to save the town around us, to save the community around us. We're called to work. We're called to till it. But as a group, as other churches come together. How many churches do we have in Seymour? More than I know how to count. Even in a town of 2,500 where I grew up in Center Point, if you went 2 or 3 blocks, you'd run into another church. There were 2 Methodist churches, 2 Catholic churches, 3 Lutheran churches, and then 4 or 5 Christian churches. Just in a town of 2,500. But how many of them interacted with one another? How many get upset if believers happen to go to a different church? Do we have that same mindset today? You are faithful in what you are doing. And even though they are strangers, I think welcoming strangers is one of the greatest things Surprise does. I know for me, I like to try and shake everybody's hands. I know there's a few of you this morning that I didn't get to shake your hands. You slipped in on me and I didn't get around to it. But to try and greet people by name. When I first came, how many months did it take me to get all of your names down? Some of you still get Cammie and Rebecca mixed up, though. I'm giving you a hard time. But we welcome one another here, and that's a blessing. We ought to continue to show hospitality to such people and to those outside these doors. And this is where John gets to the warning where we picked up. I wrote to the church, but Diotrephes, who loves to be first, will not welcome us. I had a blessing when I was in college to be able to go to different churches, preach at different churches. But this story comes from me interacting with churches when I graduated, trying to find a job. The number of churches that don't give a second look when someone sits down. Because I would try to visit these churches beforehand, and I'd sit down, try to talk with people, and there were a number of churches, nobody even greeted me or shook my hand. It's a church. We're supposed to be the love of God. Now, there were quite a few churches that moved the hand sanitizer station, because this was during COVID, right next to me, so I could put on hand sanitizer between shaking everybody's hands. That's true. But this Diotrephes, who loves to be first, will not welcome us. We are to seek God, have our soul grow, have our faith grow towards God, but we cannot become so self-centered that God is only moving in us. Have you noticed a blessing across the street? They almost need a bigger parking lot. That's awesome to see. I'm excited for them, for the changes and the hardships they've had to go through from leaving the United Methodist denomination, and United Methodists did not make that easy, to continue to grow now as a community church. Lighthouse Tabernacle Youth Center up the road. Anybody been paying attention up there? I don't know if they've got homeschooling or what's going on. I want to find out this week, because they have a small bus, and I've seen 3 or 4 plus kids get out, and they'll be in there all day. And that's a blessing. But we miss that if we're too focused on ourselves, saying God can only work in us, that we miss what God is doing in the kingdom around us. Now, I think we are very blessed here, and we can see those blessings happening all around us at the number of folks that come here, for the smiling faces we get to share, and for the love and welcoming of the family that we have. But we can't stay focused just on the inside. We got to see what God is doing out and around us too. And John sends a warning. When I come, I will call attention to what he is doing, how he is spreading malicious nonsense about us. Not satisfied with that, he even refuses to welcome other believers and stops those who want to do so and kicks them out of the church. We cannot be so focused on ourselves that we miss what God is doing around us. And that goes against our human nature. We like to be jealous. We like the world to revolve around us. We like everybody to understand and come to my needs, my wants. And then if somebody else needs something, I'm not going to do it. This calls us to act different than the culture around us, than the flesh that entangles us, to welcome, to be humble, and to not spread any malicious nonsense. Have you ever heard the saying, bad gas travels fast? What about good gas, good news? How fast does that seem to travel? We've heard the awful news this week. Up in Minnesota, Catholic school, the students were praying, and someone shot in through the windows. Where's the good news in that? Where's good news to overcome that? We're so bombarded with negativity of churches, of the world around us. Where do we see the positivity? And that's why it's so important for us to share hospitality, for us to share love, because there's never been a need greater than today for it to share. I can't stomach to watch the news. I don't have live television at the house because I get anxious. I get scared. I say, the world's going to end tomorrow. World War III will start next week, and it scares me, so I had to just stop. But it's not just removing ourselves from it. We need to bring in good news. We need to bring in the love of God. I don't think it's any surprise that we see the pendulum has been swinging away from God. But slowly there's been some good news. That pendulum swing seems to be slowing down in some areas. And I hope that if we become outspoken, if we become hospitable, and we share the love of Christ, that pendulum will start to swing back over to God. But it doesn't happen if we just turn off the news and don't say anything. It comes from us speaking out. In everything that John is saying, there is someone working. There is someone speaking. There's nobody just sitting still and being quiet. And that's what we see in verse 11. Dear friend, do not imitate what is evil, but what is good. Anyone who does what is good is from God. Anyone who does what is evil has not seen God. Demetrius is well spoken of by everyone, even by the truth itself. We also speak well of him. And you know that our testimony is true. Do not imitate what is evil, but what is good. If you bring a friend or a family to church, oftentimes they will start imitating your walk of faith. So is your walk of faith worth imitating? If the answer is no, we need to start working on it. Now, I always have ways to improve. I'm not saying you should imitate my walk of faith. But people do. Do I live in a manner according to it? If people follow in my footsteps, will they encounter Jesus and encounter him well? Or will they encounter what is evil? We're preaching the gospel at all times through our actions. Do our actions point to the world or to Christ? And that's something you have to wrestle with yourself. And my favorite here in verse 14, I hope to see you soon, and we will talk face to face. In an age where our culture has the opportunity to be so connected, we're so divided and lonely. I love having social media, being able to call my parents and grandparents and have a video call with them while I'm making dinner, mainly because I messed something up and I need my mama to fix it. But there's such loneliness because we've lost the interaction or the ability to talk face to face. So as we read John, as we read 3 John, there's encouragement, there's warning, but it all comes around the growth of our soul, the growth of our spirit. But how much time and attention do we give to our spirit? Do we give to our soul? Or are we focused on the flesh? Are we focused on being the center of attention? Are we focused on being the brightest that there can be? We have a great opportunity coming in 2 weeks with this concert. If you can't tell, I'm more than just a little excited about this concert. An opportunity for people to come out and see a not so small country church anymore, but still have a massive spirit for doing the Lord's will. To welcome people to share in food and fellowship and worship with one another from different churches, from different areas, from different walks of life. But we have to invite them. We have to share. We have to work. We have to speak. And that's my challenge to us today, to share the hospitality of Christ, the loving nature of Christ, with a world that is selfish, with a culture that is self-serving. That we would be like Gaius, that we would be like Demetrius, and we wouldn't follow in the footsteps of Diotrephes, who loves to be first and have his own way. How do you share the hospitality, the love of Christ? How do you share it here in this church? How do you share it with your family? Do you pray? Do you love on them? Do you pray with them? Not just for them, but with them. Or do you let the world take over and you be self-centered and just stay in the background? Faith takes work. It takes work to grow the Spirit, to grow our faith, to grow our soul. Will you put in that work today? Will you put in that work this week? As we come to our time of invitation, if God has been working on your soul, on the Spirit inside of you, and you want to accept the waters of baptism for the first time, I invite you to come forward to make that public statement and commitment, and for the church to come around and alongside and support you. If you want to come and make Surprise Christian Church your home, as we support one another, as we grow in hospitality towards one another, but also to those outside of us, I invite you to come down the aisle, to make this commitment of faith, and to join us on this journey as we proclaim God's news, God's love, God's mercy, not just to those of us here, but especially to those out there. I invite you to stand as we sing our invitational song.